Reprehensible and indefensible comments by Labour's leader of the House of Commons regarding the grooming gang scandal, which she has yet, in my view, really to be held accountable for. A cybersecurity attack which raises serious questions of the security infrastructure across the UK. The NHS using derogatory terms if you hold gender-critical beliefs. But also Keir Starmer celebrating a deal with India, which seems to put Indian workers first before British workers in some scenarios. More about that a bit later. But also, one of Rachel Reeves' plans to boost the economy might actually end up costing the economy more than £12 billion. And I'll tell you why a little bit later in this video, because I couldn't really make this up, but I could say that I called it a long time ago. I said as much in some of my earlier videos. So if you like my brutally honest approach to these things, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I will be brutally honest and call out what I see. I am independent, so I am free to do that. But just this morning, somebody called me a right-wing fascist. Now, just because I call things out that may seem to align with what some people think of as right-wing doesn't make me right-wing. And even if I am patriotic and other people are patriotic and they hold these views, does that make them right-wing? I don't think that really does. Is it right-wing, for example, to really stand against comments by Lucy Powell regarding this grooming gang scandal? Because I really can't let this go. And I think a lot of other people can't either, because as I said at the hook of this video, they were reprehensible comments and, as Wes Streeting admitted, indefensible. So he had and again, they've paraded him to sort of take the flak for this. So here we go. I think that's unfair that he's had to take the flak for this, but here we are. He said that these remarks about the grooming gang scandal were indefensible because there's been widespread backlash. Speaking to GB News, Wes Streeting said that the comments Lucy made were indefensible and she's not defending those comments. But you know what she's not doing either? She's not really apologising for them. Some people say she's apologised, but actually the tweet that she put out really, I'll go back to that again, was not really an apology. It was sort of, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me kind of message. And she hasn't said anything since. Her pinned comment at the top here, it's an honour to serve in the cabinet, and the latest tweet here is still this one, where she said she wanted to clarify that she does take this with the utmost seriousness and sorry if it was unclear. She was trying to challenge the political point scoring around it, not the issue itself. Now, I've done a couple of videos about this because this is the sort of thing that if they think this is okay to just carry on like nothing happened, then I think that says a lot, frankly. Now, this is not necessarily to detract from everything she's ever done, but if someone makes such a casual and flippant comment like that, I'll link my previous videos if you want to go and watch it in more detail, then what does that really say? Well, there's a few articles that have penned their thoughts as to exactly what they think this means, one of which is by Brendan O'Neill in The Spectator. I will link that below. You can pop over there and read it in full, but let's take a little preview of what Brendan had to say. So these are the thoughts that I think many people share. A lot of these articles tend to garner opinion and put them together in a neat little article. This week, Brendan writes, Lucy Powell, leader of the House of Commons, did something unusual for a politician. She spoke from the heart. Her dismissal of the rape gangs as a dog whistle was no gaffe. It was not a blunder. It was a brutally honest expression of the government's exasperation with this pesky scandal. It was a savagely candid pulling back the curtain on Labour's gross and haughty indifference to this outrage in which thousands of working class girls suffered the most unspeakable abuse. And I have to say, I sort of agree, because if somebody just blurts out something so horrible as this without much thought process going on, and it's quite a horrible thing to have said, then it does tend to indicate what they really think and possibly what other people around them really think. Because as the sayings go, behaviour breeds behaviour, attitudes are contagious, and thoughts become things. And so what people really think may often just be blurted out at a moment of frustration or in a heated debate such as this. So I'll link the Spectator article below, but what I don't see is any real accountability. I don't see anything from Keir Starmer about what she said. I don't see anything from her about what she said. I don't see any real apology, and I don't see any of them taking any real accountability, apart from Wes Streeting taking the flak, really, and trying to, I don't know whether he's trying to, I don't think he's trying to excuse those comments, but he's certainly trying to move past it and just let everybody have a bit of frustration, take it out on him, and try to move on. As I said before, and I stand by my comments, those are the kind of things that should really draw a line. Let me know in the comments what you think. On another legal story, just for a moment, you probably heard about the M&S cybersecurity attack just recently, which forced them to shut down all of their online sales, costing the business millions of pounds. In fact, even as I look at it right now, as I'm recording, online orders are still paused. You might be asking yourself, well, how did this happen? What does it mean? What will they do about it? And what does that mean for you? Well, there's a few very important things to understand here. This is not just about shutting down their online sales and costing them lots of money. The real question is, what information do these hackers have access to? Does that include your information? And what might happen afterwards? Well, let's look first of all how it happened. It happened, we understand, by way of a ransomware attack. Very briefly, that is just software that allows hackers to get into their systems, browse around the data, look for all of the information, which might include your personal information, your name, your address, your payment information. All of this sort of stuff may be accessible depending on how far that hack has gone. And once they feel the time is right to strike, they encrypt all of that information and then put up a ransom message that the company must pay them lots of money, usually in Bitcoin or some other untraceable money, to release the data. Otherwise, they might then publish your data on the web somewhere or sell it onto other companies and make money that way. Now, the big problem for you is that this could well mean that these hackers sell your information to data brokers and marketers, and they will be selling it on over and over again, and ultimately it might end up in the wrong hands. And that is why on this channel I partner with a company called Incogni, because Incogni provides a service which will contact each of these data brokers and marketers and request and require that they remove your data from their servers. Doubtless, information may already be on there because you'll recall those little phrases that we may sell or share your data with third parties, and they sell it on over and over again, and it might end up on the dark web, and people might use it nefariously to impersonate you, steal your identity, and take out loan accounts in your name and all sorts of other things. So when you sign up with Incogni, you'll get access to a dashboard. They'll do all of the hard work for you. They will contact hundreds of these companies, and you will see just how many companies confirm they've got your data, and then when they've removed it. Some of them take longer than others, but with the use of UK and US law, they are required to remove your data from their servers. This is just one small step you can take to protecting your identity, especially in light of data breaches like this one here, because your data might end up on the dark web somewhere. And of course, as a partner to my channel, I get you a great discount off this service, which is 60% off the annual plan. Just use the code BlackBelt at the checkout with the link in the description below and on screen, and you'll get access to your discount. The service will blow your mind as to how many companies remove your data. So don't forget the code BlackBelt for your 60% discount at the checkout. The link's in the description below. Now is as good a time as ever with so many of these security breaches coming to light. So check out Incogni, and I thank them for sponsoring this video. Okay, with all that said, there's loads more to talk about. Let's now go to the NHS Trust, which is apparently using derogatory terms in official guidance. Now, I must admit, when I first came across the term TERF, I didn't really understand what it meant, and such is the case when you've never come across a term before. It was some time ago that I did first come across this, and then I had to look it up. I was like, what does this mean? And I sort of guessed what it meant when I saw the context in which it was used, but then when I looked it up, it's actually quite bizarre. And so the phrase TERF, if you're not familiar or you've seen it and you weren't really sure what it meant, is transgender exclusionary radical feminist. So you're a person who is showing hostility towards anyone who is transgender by being transgender exclusionary and radical as a feminist. Now, what I've seen, quite bizarrely, what I've seen all across social media is this term being used to label anybody who is in any way, shape or form supporting the law of the Supreme Court ruling or anything that it stands for. The Supreme Court ruling, of course, saying that the Equality Act referred to sex as the biological term, so man and woman in the biological sense, and sex in the biological sense, as opposed to trans woman or trans man. Now, as I say in all my videos, and I have people that email me and I've had conversations with, I don't mean any of my videos with any disrespect and they're not to upset anybody. And I have trans people watching my videos. They usually share my views, and they do get treated badly in some sense, and they do come across difficulties, and this law will cause them some difficulties. So when we have a serious and sensible conversation about these things, we do have an understanding. But as I said, what I've seen a lot of is this term TERF being thrown around where it really has no business being used at all, just because, let's say, somebody supports the law as it is. But the Telegraph reports on documents that apparently have been drawn up by the North East London Foundation Trust, which in official guidance is using this as a slur, TERF. This document also apparently claims that it's unlawful to exclude trans women from women-only spaces around the hospital, which of course it's not. It never has been. It's always been lawful for an organisation, particularly when providing single-sex services, it's always been lawful for them to exclude trans people from those spaces if it was a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim. But as the Supreme Court ruling absolutely clarified, it has always been the case that a single-sex space is a single-sex space, meaning women's space is for women only in the biological sense of the definition. And that's always been the case. It's not just that this has now changed and the Supreme Court ruling has turned this upside down. Nothing of the sort. It's always been the case that a single-sex space is a single-sex space, meaning it has always been lawful that once an organisation has designated those spaces as single-sex, that is it. They're supposed to be single-sex. Now, in the workplace and in schools, those are mandatory. In non-workplace, non-school environments, it's not mandatory, but where they are defined as single-sex, it is most definitely single-sex. However, according to the Telegraph article and some others that reported this as well, the staff policy obtained under a Freedom of Information request was called Supporting Colleagues Who Identify as Transgender, Non-Binary and Other Gender Identities. Within the document, it referred to TERFs, stating that this group may feel that trans inclusion is an infringement on their beliefs or values, which it most definitely is, because following the Forstater case, it is a philosophically protected belief that sex is immutable and man and woman means man and woman in the biological sense of the word. Nonetheless, this staff policy apparently uses the term TERF in a derogatory sense. And Keir Starmer's celebrating a trade deal with India, but their news announcement on this missed out a key point, and that is that they're exempting Indian workers in intercompany transfers for 3 years from national insurance, essentially making it cheaper to hire the Indian workers over British workers. They left that bit out of their press release, and it was picked up, bragging if you like, in other press releases, which I've covered in much more detail in my secrets video, which I'll link below. And last but certainly not least, another Telegraph article, I'll link them all below, reports on the latest analysis from the Centre for Economics and Business Research, that rather than raising lots of money in Rachel Reeves' crackdown on non-dom status, which on the face of it might sound like a great idea, why should somebody with non-dom status have loads of tax exemptions in the UK, etc., aside from the fact that they might actually bring lots of wealth to the country and bring lots of business to the country and so on, which is the other side of the coin here. Instead of raising money, it might actually cost the economy over £12 billion. Let's take a dive into this, shall we? Rachel Reeves' crackdown on non-doms threatens to cost the Treasury billions of pounds rather than raising money, according to this new analysis. The exodus of the wealthy could lose the Exchequer £12.2 billion over this Parliament if half of non-doms decide to leave Britain. If a third left, the UK would lose £700 million in the first year. If just 25% chose to quit the UK, the Treasury would make no extra money from the decision to scrap the status. There are already signs. Now, it's at this point that some people might say, well, this is not really going to happen. This is over-exaggerated. They're overblown statistics and fictitious numbers, etc. But last year alone, the UK lost almost 11,000 millionaires to overseas countries because of all the tax changes. This is more than double those that left in 2023. This is according to the Adam Smith Institute. Treasury tax receipts from wealthy individuals also down in the first 3 months of 2025 compared to last year. But of course, there's lots of disagreement. Andrew Griffith, Shadow Business Secretary, said investors and wealth creators leaving the UK for brighter shores is nothing short of disastrous for our economy. It also means we'll have to pay higher taxes to make up for the shortfall. That's the bit that I'll come back to in just a moment. But I did say in earlier videos that taxing the rich and the wealthy and businesses, etc., is just going to make people leave. If it's more expensive to have a factory here than it is elsewhere, they're likely to have the factory elsewhere. If it's more expensive to live here as a wealthy individual, they are more likely to live elsewhere. And almost 11,000 millionaires have already left. But the counter-argument is the Treasury spokesperson says, we do not recognise these figures. The independent OBRs confirm that the changes to the regime will raise £33 billion over the next 5 years. Replacing the outdated non-dom tax regime with the new internationally competitive residence-based system addresses the unfairness in our tax system, attracts the best talent, investment in the UK, etc. But take that what you will. Let me just say this. If indeed this is correct, and we get a few years down the line and they are seriously looking at the forecast, even before it's happened, if the Treasury looks at this report, even if they don't publicly agree with it, even if publicly they say, well, we don't agree with that, we don't believe that's going to happen, even if they don't believe it publicly, in the background, they will be looking and thinking, how can we possibly offset and mitigate and possibly prevent these losses from occurring and crystallizing over the next few years? Because otherwise, the government is obviously going to face a very difficult election, if not already, but more so. Because if these losses do materialize over that time, they'll have a lot to answer for, because I told you so. But how are they going to fix that? How are they going to prevent that from happening? Well, I'll tell you how. The only way they're going to do that is by taxing everybody else even more, to raise the money somewhere else, some other way, to plug this ever-growing gap, because they seem to be doing things again and again that are likely to cost the economy money, and they're looking to plug that hole elsewhere. It's a bit like one of those cups where you've got so many holes in the bottom of it and you're still trying to pour water in the top and it's still flowing out the bottom, and they have to find another source to come in the top because it's just emptying the cup. That, frankly, is just unsustainable, and they have to plug it one way or another. If you want to learn more about wealth and business and my deep dive into where your money is being spent and in some cases literally given away, check out my wealth channel. If you haven't noticed, I'm going through a rebrand right now with the assistance of a fantastic designer, Martin Lewis. I'll link him below as well, and a team at YouTube. I'm relaunching my podcast, my channel memberships, a whole new range of merch, which I've got some on the way myself because I'm going to wear them because I think they're fantastic. Thanks to Martin, because the designs are fantastic. You can get those below as well. Check out my wealth channel, which is now rebranded as Black Belt Wealth, along with Black Belt Secrets, my personal views on things. Subscribe to them all. I love chatting to you about these things. I love to hear your views about these things. Keeping it real, keeping it independent with brutally honest commentary and brutally honest merch. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.